Guys, what's up? Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to set up your very first Linux server. For this tutorial I'm going to be using Ubuntu as the system that we're going to be working with. It's probably one of the most common ones and everything like that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So you want to set yourself up a Linux server and you're not maybe sure where to begin? Well, you've come to the right place. I can actually show you exactly how you would do such a thing. Now, what exactly are you going to need for a server? Believe it or not, it doesn't actually require anything crazy. It can even be a small single board computer, a Raspberry Pi 4, Raspberry Pi 5. That's even at the bare minimum. Today, I'm going to be going over how to set up a server that's like an old desktop or an old laptop or anything like that. We're going to be using Ubuntu for the server installation. That's my favorite OS. I use it personally on my server. Any server I've really done in the past has been Ubuntu because it's stable and I've never had any kind of issues with it or anything like that. If you don't already have a computer, however, they can be gotten for as easy as $45 looks like here. It doesn't have to be crazy spec'd. Even an i3 would be just fine. You're really wanting to go with something that's pretty budget friendly to get started. And you can use a laptop. I've done it before. You'll just want to make sure whenever you're doing everything that you don't shut the lid on it or anything like that, and that it stays powered all the time. You may even want to consider pulling out the battery if it's going to be a long-term solution. So, but that price thing out of the way, they're not crazy expensive, and even on those older systems, the RAM prices are usually cheaper too. So, what exactly does the computer have to have in terms of specs? For Ubuntu, you need at least a 2 gigahertz dual core processor. You're going to need, looks like it's going to be 4 gigs of RAM there for physical installs. If it's a virtual machine, which I'm going to be using a virtual machine just to emulate physical hardware, you'll want to install it on physical hardware though. Running a VM is more for experimentation, or for my purposes, I'm going to be using it to show you how to install the actual system. And it is also worth mentioning that the minimum like hard drive space is about 25 gigabytes there, and you are going to need a USB flash drive to actually plug into that computer and install the operating system off of. And it's obviously going to be different from Windows. I have a solution for how to create a USB drive off of Windows and how to create one off of Linux. I'm going to be using Linux to actually create the media, but either one works just fine. Usually Windows is a lot easier though. On Windows, we're going to be using a tool that would be called Rufus. I personally download the portable version and I run it just to set up the USB drive and everything like that. It's pretty straightforward, and if you need help with what to actually put in for the parameters and everything like that, you can look it up. Rufus is a free tool as well, so that's one of my favorites whenever I was still using Windows. I did actually switch over to Linux full time, and both of my systems, my laptop and my desktop, are running Zorin OS. So it's pretty sweet there as well. So pretty familiar with Linux. This is the tool that you would use though. I'll have it linked in the description. It is rufus.ie. That's all you got to put in. That'll pull this side up, and you can scroll down and click on the Rufus P version, the portable. You don't necessarily need to install it. It's not necessary for this purpose. Now, you'll see here that internet access is helpful as well. It does allow you to install updates, and you are going to need it to be connected to the network in order to actually like connect to it, manage it, things like that. It will be a headless install, so initially when you set it up, you are going to need it plugged into a screen so that way you can set everything up all the configurations and everything as you are setting it up there. But once you've done that, you will be able to unplug it from the screen once the power settings and everything have been set up so it doesn't go to sleep on you, and just leave it plugged into your router. Most of these desktops use Ethernet anyway, so it's nice to just stow it away like that. Now, the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to actually download the Ubuntu ISO to actually flash to the USB drive you'll be installing it with. So we're just going to go to ubuntu.com, and you'll see they got this nice little website here, and you'll click on download Ubuntu and just download Ubuntu desktop. Desktop is easier to set up than their server version, and they do both work the same if you do end up installing a desktop. I actually, or the desktop environment, I do recommend using a desktop environment because it makes it a little bit easier to manage the network and things like that, just in case you have to fall back to it if for some reason it doesn't have internet connectivity or something like that. You'll see here 2404 .4 is going to be the long-term support version. Usually they have updates rolling for a lot longer than the 25.10 down here. If you want to do 25.10, that's okay as well, but for these purposes here, we're going to use 2404. So I'm going to go ahead and click download on that, and you'll see in a second here it should start downloading. Yep, there it goes, and I will be right back once that downloads. Alright, and I did go ahead and close out Firefox because my image download was completed. So you can see here we have the Ubuntu image. Now, if you're using a Windows machine to actually create your media, you're going to use that Rufus that I told you about. You'll go to rufus.ie for that, link in the description. I'm going to use USB Flasher because that's what my Linux system has. So I'll go ahead and open this here. It's in my downloads. Go next, and you can see the SanDisk that you have here. Now, if you do have multiple USB drives plugged in, I would usually advise to only plug in the USB drive you want to flash, just so you don't do the wrong one, just in case you have important data on something else that may be plugged in. Maybe it's an external drive or something like that, but I'll go ahead and select my correct USB drive here, and we'll put in our password. And then that is going to get flashed, so I will be back once that is completed. Okay, so as we can see, it does say that the flashing has completed, so we can go ahead and close this out. And on no matter what system you're doing it on, make sure that you properly eject this USB from the system that you wrote it with. So it does look like it is not actually showing up for me. Yeah, actually it is, so I'll just go ahead and eject it here. So it has been removed from the system here. And then what we're going to do, you would plug this into the PC that you want to install. It's install as your server pretty much. Now, there are some important things to note here. As you can see, you'll see that the partition scheme is circled on this image that I have created or modified here. So basically, the long and short of it is, you'll use GBT for almost all modern computers that were made in the last 10 to 15 years. As if it does support UEFI firmware, faster booting, and disk over 2 terabytes. You'll want to select that option. You'll see that in the screenshot, MBR is selected as the example. If it's a very old PC, I would go with MBR, but otherwise you'll want to use GPT for most installs. If you do actually do this incorrectly, it's not a big deal. You'll just have to plug the USB drive back in and make it using the other option than the one that you selected. Now, there is one more important thing to note. You'll need to know what your boot key is for the system you're installing it on. This is the key that you typically spam after you're powering it on while it's completely off, to tell it that you want to boot off of a certain boot device, in this case a USB drive. This here is a listing that I've pulled up. with some common boot keys based on what the manufacturer of your PC is. It can vary. Some of them do say it when they're turning on. I know that most Dells do, but you'll just want to figure out what your boot key is. You can look it up, and you'll want to know this before you do this. That way it doesn't just boot into whatever system it was on, if it even has one, just to save you a little bit of time. Okay, so sometimes on certain systems, it will automatically boot off of the USB depending on how the BIOS is configured, but as a general rule of thumb, you're going to want to make sure your system is completely powered off, and you'll get ready, put your finger on the power button, and you're going to spam your boot key and just keep doing it after you hit the power button, and it's going to usually come up to a menu that asks you which device you want to boot off of. You'll select the USB drive. The reason why I mention this is because mine is set up with a EFI, which is like the new BIOS basically that I was talking about earlier, where if it's a new system, it's just gonna be like that instead of the old legacy BIOS kind of thing. So my USB drive is plugged in. I'm gonna go ahead and start this VM here so that you can see. So it's gonna say try or install Ubuntu. You're gonna want to select that option once it comes up. And then this system is gonna go ahead and start to come on here for us. And you'll just continue to follow along on your system, and this will be how to set up your server, so that way you can start tinkering and doing whatever else you want to do with your Ubuntu server. Alright, and we do have a desktop environment here. I am just waiting for the rest of it to load here. Okay, so you'll see this welcome to Ubuntu pop up. It's going to start saying preparing Ubuntu, and this should be the installer where you'll set everything up, what the system's name, host name is going to be, everything like that. I will go over every single thing and I will explain it though, so don't worry about that. Okay, and we'll go ahead and select English. Don't really need to worry about any of this. You won't be interacting with the system much on the display. You'll leave your keyboard layout whatever it needs to be. You can change it if you'd like to. And we're going to use the wired connection. If for some reason your system has Wi-Fi, I do want to actually go over that. You can use Wi-Fi, however, there will be higher latency and delay, and it can sometimes cause connectivity issues. So I do suggest using a wired connection. Just plug it into your router. It's usually more stable. Pretty much all the time it's going to be more stable. And if you don't have an Ethernet cable, you can pick one up at your local Walmart and electronics. You can get a short one. Pretty easy solution. Well, now it may offer to update the installer. You probably want to go ahead and do that way. I've noticed sometimes that the installer will crash on me if I don't update it. So we'll go ahead and let this update run here. Okay, and we can go ahead and close the installer. Now, once you get back to this, there's going to be this little icon right here that says install release. It's on the sidebar here. Just click it again after that update finished. It's going to come back up, and we're going to go ahead and just retrace our steps. It's the same entries. Use the wired connection. We'll say interactive installation. Don't worry about the other option. And you'll want to do the default selection. You're not going to have much software on this. It's just going to be your server. So leave it as the default selection. Make sure that you install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware. If that does apply, it usually helps. And download and install the additional media formats. These things can help sometimes with compatibility. We'll go ahead and click next. And you'll just leave it as erase disk and install Ubuntu. We'll just click next again. Now, you're going to give basically whatever your name is. You can just say server. Now this name is going to be what name it uses on the network. So if you want it to show up as server on the network, then you just leave it as server. I'm going to make the usernames server as well. You can make it your name, whatever you want to do. So I'll kind of go over here. Your name is just what it calls you. The computer name is going to be what name it has on the network. So if you were to ping it and your network does support that, you could say ping server and it would reply. The username is going to be what username you're going to be logging on with, and the password is going to be whatever password you're going to log on with. So I'm just going to make my password server, and we'll just leave it as require my password to log in. That's usually more secure. It does look like it does not like my password, so let me do password exclamation mark, and we'll click next. I do suggest a secure password just for security. You'll want to select your approximate location. I'm in the New York area. That way it does do the time and everything correct. Okay, and you'll just see that it does give a review here. You'll go ahead and click install. Now before you do this, do keep in mind this will delete any data on the disk. This system is being completely overwritten, just to let you know. But if this is an old machine and you're installing it as a server, I would assume that that's already been come across. But if it does have Windows on it and you need to get any data off of it, this would be the point you would want to stop, turn it back off, go ahead and back up the data. If not, then we are good to proceed. Go ahead and press install. Okay, and the installation process has finished. So now we'll go ahead and click on restart now. And at this point, usually you would want to go ahead and remove the USB drive. It'll usually prompt you. I believe it'll prompt you right here, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So once it says this, you'll remove the USB drive from the USB port that you installed it with, and then you'll go ahead and press enter. Okay. And we have reached the login screen. The system is officially installed. So you'll go ahead and click on your username. You're going to put in your password, and then you'll be logging in here for the very first time. And welcome to your Ubuntu system. You'll go ahead and click on next here. You can skip Ubuntu Pro. If you want to share system data with the Ubuntu team to help them develop, it's completely up to you, but you don't got to, as you can see there. And you're not going to really need to install any apps unless it's very particular, but you can just go ahead and click finish. Okay. So now that we're in the Linux system, there is some things that we're going to need to do here. First of all, this is installed as a desktop system. It will go to sleep automatically. We need to prevent it from doing that. And I did just want to showcase how a simple web search can help you fix simple things like this. Normally, there are options here for all of that kind of stuff. However, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to open the terminal. So you'll go to Show Apps, go to Terminal right here, and this is how we are going to set this up. So if you'll just follow along with me, I'm going to say sudo system ctl mask sleep.target space suspend.target space hibernates.target and another space hybrid-sleep.target. These are all the kinds of sleep that it can do. And I'll go ahead and just expand this here just so you can read it, or maybe pause the video. That's going to be the command you'll want to run. So press enter, type in your password. You will not be able to see it anytime that you do this, so just type it like you normally would and press enter. And now it has created these links, so anytime that these targets are triggered, nothing will happen is basically what that says. So we have fixed our issue with it sleeping. Okay, so now that we've dealt with the power situation, what we're going to need to do now is install a remote way to manage it. SSH is usually the best way to manage it. It works on Windows without even having to install anything. You can just open the Windows terminal and SSH into it. I'll demonstrate how that would be done, as it is the same exact command on Linux and Windows. But we'll go ahead and pull our terminal back up here. and we're going to run this command with me. It's sudo apt, which is the app package manager. We're going to apt install. It's going to be open ssh server. So sudo apt install open ssh server, and we'll press enter. Go ahead and type in your password once again. It's going to say, do you want to continue? You'll press Y and enter, and it'll install the OpenSSH server for us. Give it a second to do that. Okay, and it does look like it automatically gave us the firewall allocation, because this system does have a firewall. If you do not manually allow things through, it will pretty much block the incoming or outgoing traffic. So the SSH has already been allocated for that. Now, we're going to also install Webmin. It's one of my favorite web tools for it. So we'll go ahead and go to their website, go to search for Webmin. It's WebMIN. You're going to go ahead and click on their link, and you're going to click on download. They're going to have a command right here. Just click on their copy button, go back to your terminal here on the side, Control-Shift-V, and oh yeah, you want to know what though? We're still missing curl. So let's sudo apt install curl. You can do the -y if you want to. It bypasses it asking you if you want to. So we need to sudo apt install curl. This is the little command that basically allows us to download this. Press enter. Okay, now we can Control-Shift-V and then just press enter. And if you, it'll ask if you want to set up the stable repository. Just say yes and press enter. That'll allow it to automatically update itself whenever they do release new versions of Webmin. Okay, and now once you have that open SSH server so you can access it, now you're going to want to configure a static IP address. What does that mean exactly? Well, on your network, every device has its own IP address, and basically it can change after a period of time. So what we want to do is we want to set it manually, so that way we always know what IP address it is, because sometimes trying to connect to it by name doesn't always work. So we're going to click on the power menu up here. We're going to click on settings, and we're going to go to network up here. Click on the little gear icon next to the wired connection or wireless if you want that route. And you'll see that it does have one right now. You can make it stay that, or you can change it. I'll go ahead and leave it on 164. Here's how you would do that. So click on manual, and do take note of how your thing is structured here. We're just going to copy it for ease. It's 192.168.1.164. And if you want to, you can actually drag this and copy it. Go to here, make sure to click on manual. In the address thing, just paste the IP address. And for most home networks, you can just do this, say 255.255.255.0, so 255.0. And then your gateway is always going to be this portion with a 1 after it if you're in a standard home network. So that would be 192.168.1.1. And if yours does not match mine as far as that 1 right there, don't worry about it if it's 0 or 2 or something like that. Just make sure that this address has the 2 or the 0 in it as well, and this one does, and it ends in 1, and you should be good. You'll just need to make sure you can check all the other devices on your network, but for these purposes, just copy this IP address. You're gonna put the 22255 there, and then you're gonna do the same beginning up to here as you're the one you pasted, except you're just gonna put a 1 on the end right there. And then you should be able to apply this. Just for safe measure, I like to switch this off and then switch it back on. That way it connects with its IP address for sure. Okay, so it says it doesn't have internet. We need to also configure DNS. So I like Cloudflare. Just do 1.1.1.1 and then just apply it. And once again, switch it off, switch it back on, and it says that we have internet. So the DNS was just the issue. All right, and now that we've done this, there's actually no reason for us to be on the screen anymore. So at this point, we can actually switch over to the system that we want to access it from. So we can go ahead and actually power and log out. Don't power it off, just log out. And we're just going to let that run there on the side. Now, remember how we had that IP address of 164? Well, make sure that you write that down or something since we set it static, because this is how we're going to do it now. You're going to say SSH, your username that you set. See how it says server right there? We're going to put server at the IP address that we set static, 192.168.1.164. It's going to ask you if you want to trust the fingerprint of it. Just say YES, say yes, and press enter. Now you're going to type in your login password that you've been putting in the entire time. Press enter. Alright, and we are logged into the server. We no longer need to access the screen. Now, what if you don't want to SSH in every time? Well, that's also fine. Here's why. We're going to install a tool called webmin, which Ubuntu just supports straight up downloading it. So we'll go ahead and do that. Sudo apt install webmin. Put in your password. So I think I might have had a little bit of issues earlier. So if you do get this message, just say sudo dpkg -- configure -a, and then it should fix itself up, and then run your command that you're trying to do again. So we'll run webmin again. It will go ahead and install it for us. We'll say yes, and now we're just going to wait for this install process to complete. I'll be back once that's done. Okay, and once you've gotten to a screen like this, that means that webmin is installed. Now, here's how to actually access webmin. Just go to one of your web browsers. Now, remember the IP address, it's important. Go to, mine is 192.168.1.164. Now, you're going to put a colon and then 10,000. That is the webmin port. You can bookmark this once you get in there. Press enter. It is going to warn you because it's not using HTTPS like normal websites. Just say advanced because I'm on Firefox, and then proceed. Okay, and now we just got to type in our username and password, which is, on mine, it is server, and then my password. Oops, hold up. You can say remember me. I'm not going to save it because this is a temporary VM for the purposes of this guide. But now you can see it has all of the stuff. It tells you that the package is available, and you can update them like this too. But this is a bit of an easier way to change some settings, and you can also click the little terminal icon here, and you can access the terminal inside it. See? It might be a little laggy though, so if you're going to do terminal, I'd recommend using your SSH on your actual computer that you're accessing it from. But anyways, that is going to sum up the video. That is how you set up your very first Ubuntu server, and you can begin looking up how to install services on it. Just refer to it as an Ubuntu server when you're doing your Google searches, and have a whole lot of fun. I had a whole lot of fun when I was learning, but anyways, until next time, thank you for watching.